Hello once again, and we are returning to talk about wormholes this time. So, like I think I mentioned right in the intro, wormholes are something that have been in a few missions, but they're hard-coded, and that is a bit of an issue for me. I like things to be flexible, and I like them to be configurable as well on the fly. So, wormholes. Let's mess around with wormholes, shall we? So first and foremost, the wormhole by default right now is set up to be in the sector I'm currently in, as long as I turn it on. So the M menu, if you press M when you're in here, you get what is essentially just mission stuff. There's the away mission, there's tractor beam, we'll go over that as well. Derelict ship, energy nebula, that's all different stuff, but wormhole, number 3. So pressing that, toggling wormhole open or closed. So when you open it, it spawns, and we have a wormhole in front of us. Now, the wormhole is obviously just a black hole, and this image here, it's a mod, but you don't have to have the mod obviously for it to work because it's just an image. So here we have the wormhole in front of us. Now, normally when ships go into a wormhole, there is a kill spot right in the center which destroys everything. That I have circumvented by putting an object in the middle, as you can see. The object in the middle stops any ships from getting that close to the center and destroying themselves. So, moving in, or being dragged in, you'll be able to see that we will actually spawn ourselves. I'm going to just very quickly, as this is doing its job, I'm going to configure where I would like the other one to come out. So, wormhole. So this, you'll see the power of it just now. We've got a wormhole here, so I'm going to set the location of wormhole 2. Now, I'm going to set it to be in Zorilya. I'm going to set it to be in sector 55 because that's the one I define. And then I want to set the position. So to set the position, you just right click wherever you want. I'm going to say I want it to be here in Zorilya and then press space. And that's it done. Oh, that's me. Okay, good. So every time you do that, it clears wormholes in the sector and then like decides to sort of regenerate them if they're still there. It's just like a cycle that it does every now and again. So, so I'm drifting into the middle of the wormhole. The suspense is killing me. I want to move in a little better. Let's warp in. So here we go, going through, ding, and I'm out. And there's the wormhole, and I'm in Zorilya. Now, so you can see, first of all, that it is configurable. You can set it anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and set the other side of this wormhole now to the first sector of Dionysus system. So here we go. Menu, once again, M for like sort of mission stuff. I don't know why it's there still. Maybe should put it in a different menu. So M twice to get to page 2, and then 3 for wormhole. Set location of wormhole 1, because this is wormhole 2 in this system. So now I want to set it to Dionysus. So Dionysus 1, and then press space to confirm. And then set the sector. Let's set it as the trade hub, which I think is sector 13. 1, 3, space. And then right click in the location. So right next to nothing, like about there or something, and then space. So now it'll kind of make itself jump away and then come back, and if I warp us forward, we will plunge into the wormhole. Ding. And we will come out in the middle of the trade hub in Dionysus. Woo-wee! Alright, and we can obviously go back. Like, if you don't mess around with the wormhole, it just stays the way it is. So let's do that. So you, as the game master, have got a lot of flexibility with wormholes. You can set them up and present them to the players as a means of transport to move them through space a decent way, without too much trouble. And we'll just jump back to Zorilya for a second because I like it. Oh god, am I gonna miss it? Alright, and there we are back in Zorilya. Okay, so let's stop just now. The wormhole is there. Now, you've noticed something popped up there. That's because I accidentally pushed a couple of buttons too much. But the reason why that's popped up is not unconnected from what I was wanting to explain. So we have wormholes for jumping people around. We also have this, which just popped up. So let's cancel that out and go to a different menu for the time being. So to get a very quick sector selector, you press Q and you've got blank, you've got Dionysus system. All of these are old sector names which were in the previous sandbox, which I actually took out to make it more efficient at this point. But I'm thinking about adding them back in, and I need to do a lot of work to revamp them a little. But anyway, Dionysus system. If I wanted to go Dionysus system, I could just press 2. And then I'm at Dionysus Outpost, and we're in the first sector of Dionysus. That's one way to get around. Now that I'm in Dionysus system, I can press QQ. So Q first brings that same menu back up. If I press Q again, sector select, it brings up this. And now I know there are 16 sectors in Dionysus, and I know that sector 13 is the trade hub. So I will go 1, 3, space, and suddenly I'm in the trade hub again. Now all this jumping around, I can quite believe this is going to crash the game probably at some point, but because this game has now been running for about 3 hours as I have been talking. But yeah, now I'm in the trade hub, and as you can see, the wormhole is still there because I haven't changed the wormhole at all. And if I go through it, I'll end up back in Zorilya sector 55. If I want to jump to Zorilya sectors, I haven't actually implemented a way of changing system yet, which I really should do. But as long as you're in the right system just now, so I'm going to press Q and then go 3 for not Tarantus Gate, but for Zorilya. We have a stricken carrier, look at that. Advanced stages of infestation. No hope of saving a ship like this, of course. But apparently he's on my side. Don't know how that happened. Bye-bye. So yeah, now we're in Zorilya. We're in sector 2. Sorry, we're in system 2. We're in sector 55. If I wanted to go to sector 0, I could just double Q like I just did there. So Q once again, opening up that sector select, and then Q again for the one you can input into. Press 0, press space, and then I'm moving to a new sector. And this is sector 0. If I wanted to go to sector 1 in the same space, sector 1, I just do the same, press 1, press space. And now I should get a random sector spawning. The only reason I didn't get a random sector spawning before is because the blank sector is sector 0 also. And so that caused a little bit of a what do you call it? Not a collision. There's a word for that. There's a little bit of one of those though. And the event for the blank sector would have triggered first because there's less in it. Well, there's less happening for it to work. Alright, so now we're in sector 1, and just to prove that, you guys have, if you've watched the videos properly, you will have noticed that there's a galactic position thing that comes up when we transition in Zorilya's system. So I am going to transition upward, and you should find us in sector 10, or Z is 1 and X is 0, so it'll be sector 01. Oh, 1-1. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, because we're in sector 1, of course. Don't you? So I was in sector 01. Now I'm in sector 11. And yeah, so we're in Zorilya. And if I want to go back to sector 55, I can just QQ 55 space. And now I'm back in Zorilya. Next to the planet Zorilya, that is. I don't know why a stricken vessel keeps coming out there. I'll have to check that. Anyway. All good. That's wormholes. You can move them around to your heart's content as a GM, and that's the point. Let's stop this for a moment. Now, since we haven't been going that long, I will go over other things in that same menu. So we have tractor beam. Yeah, let's do tractor beam. So, tractor beam. When you press 2, it brings up a list of the ships that are in the simulation, or not in the simulation, but are available for the tractor beam. The Harak is one of them. Only one ship can have the tractor beam active at any one time, and there's a reason for this, a technical reason. So, Harak, press it. You can see there's a little red dot that pops up. That's because there is an object behind him as a reticle. Yeah? So if I do this with the hull, I go to the rear view, you can see there's an asteroid that is blue behind me. Now obviously because I have modded asteroids, it's not a sphere of any kind, so it looks kind of weird, but that is the reticle. That is what you need to sync up. That's the target essentially you need to get a ship into. So I want to tractor beam that ship. The GM has to select the ship, and I'll explain why in just a second. So just for all you who are wondering how the wormholes worked, the wormholes, they just have a lot of variables that you can change, which are being changed in the menus, and the transitions and things from the wormholes are done in much the same way as the transitions from the side of the across the side of the sectors, except obviously you get a difference. You get the difference between your position as you're transitioning through the wormhole to the actual wormhole you're transitioning through, and then you kind of you set it in such a way that the ship goes onto the opposite side of the other wormhole, so you're not getting sucked into the wormhole continuously. Oh no, I'm being shot at! Bye. I need to make sure he thinks I'm a friend. There we go. Okay, so let's get myself positioned. I'm never going to position myself like this. This is just silly. Come on. Is he invisible? Is he cloaked? Please don't be cloaked. Ah, no, there he is. Cool. Okay, so now once again the GM has to select what they're going to tractor, and then we can continue with the tractoring process. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be quite close. Oh, he's running. He knows I'm going to tractor him. Come on, you. Run right into it. Come on. Yes. Here he comes, and you'll see a little jump just as he hooks on. Yeah! Now he is in my tractor beam, and you can see the reticle has gone away. And you can go as fast as warp 1. I'll do this on the main screen so you don't get so much of a jir. There we go. You can go as fast as warp 1. After that, you can also optimize warp 1 to a certain extent, and you'll still have it hooked up. But after that, it kind of breaks off, and it's designed to do that, so you can't travel like warp 4 with something hooked up. And yeah, he's just hooked onto me there. I can drag him around, and if the game master deselects what you're trying to drag and what you're trying to tractor, then it's going to deconnect. But disconnect. But if the game master then goes oops and then clicks on him again, he'll come back. It's just, you know, a kind of a measure I put in there so that the players didn't get foiled in their plans by the GM, like clicking around on the map. Anyway, that's not the same as doing something like this, for instance. Well, actually it is apparently. Oh shit! Maybe I should work a way of changing that. Anyway, so yeah, I just demonstrated you can tractor any ship object pretty much. I'm pretty sure you can also do stations, and that's just a choice that as a GM you need to decide whether they're allowed to do that sort of thing, whether it makes any sense for them to do that sort of thing. If they're in a big enough ship, sure. And this works. The way this works is there is one object. So first of all, I had to make a position tracker, and the position tracker is very messy, but all it does is track the position of each of the ships, and it doesn't do it all the time. It just is set up so that if it needs to track a position, it can. It essentially gets the position of the ship and tests the position of the ship against a bunch of values. So it'll first of all test in huge increments, like it'll test in 10,000. So it'll be like, if your ship position is between 50,000 and 60,000, then awesome, set the test as 50,000, and then go from there in thousands, and then hundreds, and then tens, and that's enough. So then we have a position which updates itself that rapidly, which is not very good at all, but it's good enough for what we want to do. And I realize I've just done it again. So let's pick that guy up. There he is. Alright, so if you wanted to, sorry, as a GM, and they asked you to, you could turn off the tractor beam. So this it's just the same. You go into the menu and you press 1 again for Harak, and it toggles that. And now if I turn it back on, having still selected that ship, it shouldn't bring it back. Yeah, it's out of range again. So that's the proper way to disengage a tractor beam, and you can't just sort of cheat and expect it to come back that way. Let's stop. So there is a position tracker, like I said. Position tracker that I've done for each one of the ships, and I also did it for one extra object, and it is that tractor beam object. What I do is I utilize the set relative position the function, set relative position function for objects, and I set this, which is called like apostrophe. The object's name is apostrophe. I set the object's position relative to the ship that's attached. It's got the tractor beam working on it. I set it behind it by so far, and then I track its position and do tests for the object that I'm selecting. Now, the parser, like I've said before, the variables in the XML parser, they can only support storage of floats or integers, and even they don't store floats very well at all. So you have to kind of work around this. The only variable object storage that there is available to us as mission scripters is this, the GM selector. So the functionality is there, just Tom has never gotten around to exposing that to those who would like to make missions. So once again, I put it out there, Tom, this requires work. And if you're not wanting to do it, I understand entirely, just putting it out there. So yeah, I utilize the only means I have of storing essentially an object as a variable, and it is this clicker. So selecting what it is that you want to tractor beam is a necessity, and the GM has to do it. After that, the position of this object is checked versus this object, the tractor beam object, and when it gets close enough, it hooks up. If you're going too fast, it decouples, and obviously if you deselect, then it decouples, but then if you reselect, it's fine. Oh, okay, so that's wormholes and tractor beams. The wormhole, you will have noticed that when I jumped through the wormhole, there's a little pink arrow pops up. That is the same thing as the tractor beam, like position tracker. Let's look at it a bit closer. So as I go in, you'll see a little pink arrow. What it's doing is creating that so that it can be tracked. It can be the position can be tested, and then it updates my ship's position. And you'll see wherever I jump in, I jump out on the opposite side of the circle. A little bit further away, but I jump out on the opposite side of the circle. It's a little bit further away, so you don't constantly jump back and forth. And that's the position tracker. It's just very, very simple, very crude. Does the job to an extent, and can be used for many, many things. Why is there a Scarran ship? That's not a Scarran ship. It's a Corellian ship. Oh Christ! I am somehow the enemy. Oh, yeah, because I changed my side so I wouldn't be attacked. Of course. There we go. So that position tracker can be used for quite a number of things, and I've thought about using it for like self-destructs, not self-destructs, for like creating ship destructions that actually look real. Well, they look better, having a mine that blows them up rather than them just being disappearing. I'm starting to not talk so well, as I've noticed. I've been talking for an awful long time, but I will press on and try and explain as much of this as I can. So I'm getting sucked back into the black hole, and I come out on the other side, and we're back in Yulia 55. Woo-wee! Ah, yes. Good stuff. Okay, pressing on. Why can't I... Hello? For some reason I cannot warp. I've got no energy. Oh, good. Cool. Well, anyway, guys, I will... You'll hear me again in another video talking about some other aspect of this. I am yet to do the menus, so it might well be that next. Goodbye!